I pursued the principalship for a minute. I applied and went through the process, and I wasn't successful at that moment, and that kind of disillusioned me for the process. At that point, I think I had been an assistant principal for about 7 years, and with the rest of my background, um, I feel like I'm prepared to do that work. Um, but the process doesn't always feel like it's one that values that. And so it makes me not want to kind of put myself out there in that way again. And then to watch friends of mine interview multiple times for jobs and not get them when they have done all the work and their interviews went well. And the people that are being chosen are people with less experience who happen to be white. That makes me, it's like, okay, so there's something else happening that I don't know about.
One of the things in BMESTL we talk about, a lot of Black males will say, hey, I will go into education and I'll get a chance at an opportunity for administration. But a lot of the times it may be confined to a dean of students, or it may be confined to a disciplinarian. Let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with being a disciplinarian. There's nothing wrong with being dean of students. However, if you place someone in that box and you don't allow them the wiggle room to grow, you don't allow them or pour into them to become and blossom into instructional leaders, you are essentially doing the same thing that many of us have done with students. We put them in a box and we don't give them the resources or the pouring into for them to grow.
I always had a sense that I wanted to be a teacher. When I graduated from college, however, I got a job as a probation officer in New York. And I did that for about 5.5 years. And the more I did it, the more I realized that I really needed to go back into education, because what I found was most of my clients were there because they didn't go to school, and so they didn't see the choices they had. And I started my teaching career in Fairfax County, and then I went to law school and did some educational policy work, and realized that I really missed being in schools. I had the privilege of being part of an internship program that Fairfax County supports, where I could intern as an assistant principal for a year. And so that, I think, gave me the confidence that I could move into administration, because now I have a sense of what this work looks like. And I think that one of the things that hampers people of color as they try to move forward is that they don't always have those people.
This notion of diversity has to be embedded with inclusion. And what I mean by that, we can't just want people in our organization for photo ops, just to say, hey, we are a diverse school. If you're having people facing the organization, but you're not allowing their voice box to be turned up and help us do some great work, then I think it can be quite short-sighted. And so one of the things that we've been discussing is a standard operating procedure, equity within the interview process. And so I'm excited to be a part of that work and part of those discussions.
I think that, weighing experiences and references just as much as interviews would help everybody across the board. But I think that the part that ends up lacking is that there aren't enough people of color in positions to make the decisions. And so if there are other people in the room and these discussions are being had, then other things would be taken into consideration, because those people with different viewpoints could bring that to the table.
At the end of the day, we have to act. We have to act swiftly. We have to act intentionally because our students are watching. If you are a student of color in a particular school, ask yourself, when you see how the organization is either confirming, affirming, or denouncing the identity of certain staff, would you want to go and teach in that building or that district? That's a powerful dynamic that we have to consider and we have to continue to unpack as we try to address the lack of diversity in a lot of regards, specifically in the education field.